Welcome to the official podcast of Comics Beer and Sci-Fi. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and follow Comics Beer and Sci-Fi on all your favorite social media apps. Now, on with the show!
Hey, this is Mark with Comics Beer and Sci-Fi. Well, you know it's February, and of course, got the Great Lakes Comic-Con coming up. And as usual, I'm here with showrunner Mike DeSantis. Mike, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Mark?
I'm trying to get over a cold, but I'm weathering the storm. Anyways, with this new show, you got some new things coming up in there. Tell us a little bit about this show in 2025.
Well, let's see where to start, right? Well, it's our 15-year anniversary. And for those who really know how to do math, you'd probably figure out it's our 16th because we started in 2010. But we're not counting that pandemic year that everybody was kind of off the map for their shows. So it's actually our 16th year, but 15th, consecutive in term, not consecutive, but, in terms of having guests at the show and running a show, 15th year. So we're excited about that. So we turned it into a 3-day show this year. To be honest, we're not sure if we might pull it back afterwards or leave it. It's kind of an experiment because I'm sure, and I know you guys, pretty well personally about things, but I know people have been asking for a while for a 3-day show, but it is just a family-run show. And, we're just going to see how it goes with all 3 days. Like I said, we're excited about it. We got some great things planned. From movie nights with our guests, at least one of them. We've got Kevin Eastman coming Saturday and Sunday only, but he'll be there. So we've got a lot of things that we can really be excited about for this year's Great Lakes Comic-Con.
Cool. So how did you got Sam Jones coming, and he's going to be there for the showing of the movie. How did you go about swinging, getting him to show up?
Well, with a lot of these guests, we're talking to them for a while. Kevin Eastman, I've been on the waiting list for a few years now. I was actually hoping he would make it last year. If you remember, we had a lot of the Mirage Turtles creators and things like that from Mirage Studios, and it just didn't work out with Kevin's schedule. So this year it worked out. So going back to Sam Jones, same thing. We've been talking to him for years, just trying to get schedules to work out and things of that nature, and we got it to work out. So and these are personal favorites of mine. I think I mentioned before, the barometer check for some of these guests. It's just people I'd love to meet, hang out with, and I know that the fans do too. So it works out really well because as you know, we're trying to keep this as comic book, toys, and collectibles. We're not trying to make this celebrity show. Who knows as time goes on, but not that that's a bad thing. But there's other shows that do that kind of stuff. So we're trying to kind of get our own little niche there. And I think we have. I really think we have. We have, far more comic book dealers than most, if not all, of the other shows in the area. That's something we really pride ourselves on. So work hard on that. But for those listening, if you're not just into comic books, of course, toys, there's other collectibles, and we have lots of fan groups that come in. There's cosplay, costume contests, gaming. We try to hit every little avenue that we feel just relates to that whole genre, if you will, of comic books and toys. So
what other artists and writers you got coming to the show?
Well, we've got. You mean with all the guests, or in general?
Yeah.
Because guests, well, we've got Kevin Eastman coming, of course. We've got Rick Parker coming, who's been a Marvel mainstay for decades. Primarily a letter. He's done art also. Beavis and Butthead is the thing that maybe people who watch this might be more familiar with in the 1990s. He did not create it, but he was the main person who wrote and drew the comic book in the 90s. His wife is actually Lisa Trusani, so we have both of them coming, and she did a lot of the Barbie comic books in the 90s. And then beyond that, we have Alex Saviak, who's a returning guest. He was here in, 2017, I think is when we had him. Primarily Spider-Man for his background, Web of Spider-Man, Marvel guy, but he also did DC, Green Lantern and other things there as well. We have a lot of the local guys returning, as you're aware, Keith Pollard, Arvell Jones. We even have Bill Mester-Loebs coming back just for a few hours on Saturday because he wanted to come out again. He's officially retired as far as I'm aware from appearing at comic shows, but we're hoping to get him out on Saturday for a few hours because I know he's just itching to get out there and do a little bit too. And we've got some local people coming. If you know who Jason Douglas is, he's from the Northville area, but he's also a writer. Seth DeMoose, who does a lot of our passes, artist and, close friend too. A lot of them just over the years, we've established quite a good relationship with a lot of the people we keep bringing back. Bill Morrison's another who did work for, Mad Magazine as well as The Simpsons. Let's see. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. Vince Locke, Jason Moore, of course, good friend of mine. So yes, lots of comic book creators, professionals, artists, things like that, writers.
Don't
Dirk
forget
Manning will be
Angel
there as
Medina.
well. Angel Medina, of course. How could I? I did not forget you, Angel. Angel's a good friend, also. Yeah, as soon as he sees this, he's going to text me and say, "What the heck? You didn't mention me." But you're putting me on the spot. I don't have a guest list in front of me, so I'm just
I
rattling
know.
off the top of my head. But no, we've got all that stuff, and when I mentioned celebrities as well, I mean Sam Jones, I guess would qualify as a celebrity, but I have my own little like definition of like what makes the cut, right, for a guest at the Great Lakes Comic Con. Well, he played Flash Gordon. I mean, I know he did Ted, he did other things as well. But that's what it is to me. You got Flash Gordon, which was in, I don't know, was that the first comic book? I mean, you're going back to the 1920s, 1930s with some of that stuff. So, and toys too, so that qualifies. And of course, the movie, right? We've got wrestlers coming, and anyone who's into wrestling knows there were wrestling comic books and magazines, and especially toys. Right, we got Demolition coming. We got Axe and Smash. We actually had Axe on board 2 years ago. I'm trying to think when that was, but he got sick and couldn't make it and had to cancel. So we were able to bring him back, and we've got Barry coming too. So Smash is coming as well. So yeah, pretty good lineup. Pretty good lineup.
So with Sam Jones coming, you are going to have a showing of Flash Gordon. Tell us a little bit about that event.
All right. Well, a movie night, of course. I think other shows have done similar things, but it just seemed to fit really well. We got, Sam coming, and I think that's, and again, I don't know all my customers basically personally, but my guess is if you're coming to see Sam, it's probably because of Flash Gordon. So chatting with him, mentioned the movie, and he's done this before with other cons that he's gone to. He thought it was a great idea. We're actually bringing him in earlier than all the other guests. Just so we can do a movie night on Thursday. So he's on board for that, and he's excited too. So the plan is to have Sam introduce the movie. And then he'll hang out with us, of course, and then we'll watch the movie. And then at the end, we'll do a short Q&A. We're kind of scheduling about 30 minutes for it. I don't know how long it'll take, but, it shouldn't be more than 30 minutes. We've got some fun things planned as well. If you purchase it, it's on the website, but you get the popcorn and the pop. We're trying, I'm going to mention this, although it's not concrete yet, because this literally just started coming together last Monday, which was like 2 days ago. Okay. We're working on an exclusive print for the movie viewing. No promises, but it'll be a nice surprise for those who are signing up. We're trying to come up with something exclusive to the Great Lakes Comic Con, something collectible. But one thing with Sam, though, is he's not doing signings and he's not doing like selfie photographs at this event. If you want that, you got to come to the Great Lakes Comic Con and come and meet him there. So this is just to hang out with them, watch the movie, and get that experience. That's what we have on Thursday night in a couple of weeks on the 20th.
So do you have any cosplay groups that you could talk about coming to the show?
Well, as far as groups go, so we have the League of Enchantment, who's there every year. They help us run the costume contests. But we do have a panel of judges. And one thing, too, I should add here, in the past, since it was only a Friday and a Saturday show, we had all the costume contests on Saturday. So we had the kids and the adults on Saturday. We're changing that this year because we have the Sunday added on. So the kids will be on Sunday, which I think a lot of shows do it that way. They do the adults on Saturday and the kids on Sunday. So for Saturday, we have Riley Adams is coming. She's a cosplayer with the League of Enchantment. Tawny Letts is a cosplay builder. And Amber Kuhn, who's part of the 501st, but a cosplay builder as well. And so we have a whole new line of judges coming in for the costume contest on Saturday. And then on Sunday with the kids, we have Katie Smith, who's with the League of Enchantment. Kyle Irving, who's one of our artists actually at the show, but he builds cosplays, he designs them, and so very talented individual. He's also one of our judges on Saturday with the kids. And then Anasi Kwiku is with the Finest, the G.I. Joe group, and he's a cosplay builder. And so we've got 3 guests each day in terms of like at the show helping out with the costume contests. And then as far as actual like cosplay groups, I already mentioned League of Enchantment. I just mentioned the Finest, the G.I. Joe group that's coming with one of the judges I just mentioned. The 501st will be there, the Star Wars group, as well as Rebel Legion. And then you've got also the Ghostbusters, and they're wonderful to have. As you know, all these groups are just wonderful. So yes, lots and lots of cosplay. And of course, we've got the people who come through the door, our fans for the show. I mean, there's lots of wonderful, and not only the costumes, but the talent is just amazing that we see at this show.
Are you finding that the cosplay part of this whole hobby is growing much bigger than the actual comic book collectors?
I don't know. I mean, not sure how to answer that, to be honest with you. I've never quite done a measurement. I mean, I feel like both groups have always been there, of course, right? The costume groups and the comic book groups. I mean, if anything, maybe my response would be something like, I mean, we know the market is down, So maybe there aren't as many collectors maybe as there were in previous years. Or are there more collectors because the market's down and they're trying to snatch up as much as they can? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that, but we do have a very good representation of each at the show. Yeah, absolutely. You'll come in. I mean, like I said before, you'll see comic books. We have tons of comic book dealers. I mean, you go to some of those bigger shows and you might only have, a dozen or two dozen. I mean, we have over 50. I think there's more than that. I have to look at the list. I mean, we have lots and lots of comic book dealers coming to this show, which is actually good for the customers too, because you've got, competition basically. And you see one book there you like, you see over this other dealer, the same book. You can kind of decide which one is, better grade or the better price. And then for costumes too, yes, we have lots of costume cosplayers coming through the event. And in all 3 days, I mean, it's like I said, the costume contest is on Saturday for the adults, Sunday for the kids, but we even have people on Friday coming in and wearing costumes. It's just a great thing to do. It's just a fun thing to do to get out and do that kind of stuff.
Now, being a comic book collector like myself, I'm always searching for new dealers I've never bought from before. They usually have stuff I've never seen or stuff that I'm looking for. Is there anyone new going to be setting up at your show this year that you can mention?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if I can mention by name every one of them, but as you guys know, because you come to a lot of the shows, we got a lot of the local guys, but we have others who are something I do every year. I should throw this out there, is I truly pound the pavement, so to speak. I go to Heroes Con, I go to different places, in the area regionally and stuff. Chicago, I'm there all the time for those shows, trying to get more vendors and guests, of course, for the show. And so some of them are coming. We have people coming from Ohio and Pennsylvania, vendors. That are coming in. And interestingly enough, too, attendees, when people buy things on our, Eventbrite, you can see where they're coming from. Even, I know this doesn't answer your question directly, but even attendees coming from California, Minnesota, a whole group of them. I'm like, wow. I'm curious and then if they're watching this, stop by and say hi. I'm curious what's bringing you out to the show. But yes, we do have an excellent mix of vendors, some local, but of course, regional too. And not only comic books, but local artists who kind of get tables in our artist alley, the makers and crafters, all that good stuff we have at every show. There's a definite mix. Yes, returning vendors that have been with us for a while, and some new ones. So that's something to be excited about as well.
So this year, is there any kind of what are the ticket prices at your show this year? Is there any hike in the prices from last year, or?
Yeah, we hiked it $5 on Saturday. Something else I've always tried to do, is try to keep these ticket prices as reasonable as possible. And I don't know if your viewers would agree. Maybe they don't think it's reasonable. I don't know, but I truly try to do my best. This isn't here to I joke about this. I mean, if I'm making tons of cash, I would have retired by now and just did this full time. But I love doing it. I truly do. So typically the price has been $20 a day, which was Friday was 20 and Saturday was 20. And we did a 2-day pass for 40. So we didn't even do a price break for a 2-day pass. This year, because of the 3 days, Saturday we added $5, so it's $25 on Saturday. Sunday as the new day is 20, and so it's Friday. So the $20 stayed. But if you do a 3-day pass, we actually lowered it to 55. So actually, I would argue it's cheaper this year. If you're going to do the whole weekend pass, you're getting Sunday out of it, and it's cheaper than what we were scaling it as before. So yes, it just didn't. And with a world where everything's going up, right? I mean, prices never seem to come down. We're trying to keep this as reasonable as possible, but you also have the reality of a budget. And I know your viewers are aware of this. I mean, there are costs. I mean, you're bringing guests in on flights, you're paying for hotels, you're paying food. None of those costs are going down. And so what we try to do is make it so that, yes, we have to increase prices, but we try to keep it, as comfortable as possible. And I think the attendees appreciate that. Well, I know they appreciate it, but I think they're aware of that.
Go into a little bit about your personal life with collecting. Sure.
Yeah.
So what do you collect in this hobby?
A little bit. Well, I'm more of a Marvel guy than I am DC. I've been collecting since, oh my gosh, I'm in my 50s now. I'm 53 now, so old man here, but probably about 9 or 10 years old. I started collecting in terms of 7-Eleven, local grocery store, grabbing this, grabbing that. I was always a Star Wars guy, still am. So I remember collecting the Star Wars series early on. But my memory of it is I remember being upset because as I read it, I'm like, this isn't anything like the movie. I mean, some of those stories were pretty far out, but I collected it. But as far as committing to a LCS and getting a membership. That wasn't until I was 16 years old when I got my driver's license and I could start driving to the shops. Comics Corner, which I'm sure you're aware of, one of the local places, is where I started. And I still have been collecting. I still have a pull list that I have. Um, the usual titles, mostly Marvel, Spider-Man, X-Men. Admittedly, though, I'm probably about 6 months behind on reading because, life gets in the way. But I actually have a pull list. I'm doing it all online now, though, of course. It's just life is too crazy and random, so I have things shipped to my house once a month. But anyway, not sure if that answers the question fully, but I do collect pretty much everything, mostly Marvel. My personal collection, I have lots of key issues, regardless of whether it's Marvel, DC, or any other publisher out there, because I've just been collecting for so long. And I'm sitting in my little room I'm in my basement right now, sitting in my room. But yeah, I mean, you can see some things behind me. This one here, if you can see it, those are the old LJN Dungeons and Dragons action figures from the early 80s. And that's my personal collection. When I was younger, that's what I collected. The wall over here you can't see, but I have every Star Wars figure. This is kind of weird to do here. Can I do something?
Do it.
Look at that. Look at that. I don't know how well you can see it because now I'm off camera, but that's all Beautiful. In order of release. I don't know. Are you seeing those or not? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. We see it.
Anyway, this is my little, there's the Kraken from the Clash of the Titans movie.
Wow.
I just have stuff I've collected for years. That just, I have it on display, and it's just kind of my zen, if you will. Kind of come down here and hang out and just have all this stuff. And like I said, most of it is stuff that I just, as I was growing up, got it. And fortunately, I had a mom who didn't throw my stuff away. So that was a good thing. I don't have one of those stories where mom threw everything away. Everything was there. And so now that I'm a big boy now and have my own place, my own house, my wife lets me keep it all in the basement. So that's part of that too. But yeah, I collect a little bit of everything. I mean, I'm just, mostly it's, 80s nostalgia too. I'm a big Transformers fan, Thundercats, Masters of the Universe to some extent. I only say that because Jason Moore might watch this. He's a huge Masters of the Universe fan, so I just kind of grill him on that one. But yeah, Transformers is a big one for me too. I feel like I'm rambling now, but I hope that answered your question. I mean, just a little bit of everything.
What's that? Recently you posted some of the acquisitions you got recently from CGC, and one of them was that first Moon Knight appearance that was a 9.4.
Yeah.
Werewolf 32.
I remember you reached out to me. You're like, how much for this? I'm like, I'm sorry, my friend. It's going to the personal collection.
That's actually a personal grail of mine.
Yeah.
And it must have been a grail for you. So what grails are you looking for right now?
That's a good question, because this is going to sound so pompous, and I don't mean to, but I have the stuff I've been looking for, I've accumulated. So it's something, because I lived through it, so as things came out, I bought stuff, I mean, I've acquired the older stuff, I have like an Amazing Fantasy, I've got, X-Men #1. That's not here though, so don't Google me. All that's in storage, under lock and key. So you don't come to my house looking for that kind of stuff. But since I was, doing this for so long. I tell this story. I already mentioned my friend Jason Moore, so I'm going to mention him again. I told him this story, and he just calls me this big nerd for this. But I remember when I was in high school, oh my gosh, a long time ago, 10th grade, and I got that Overstreet Price guide, which I've been collecting, but it came out whenever it came out, and I bought it. I literally sat down with the Overstreet, had a spiral notebook next to me. I did have friends, believe it or not, so I would hang out with friends, but this is in times when I wasn't hanging out with my friends. Don't get the wrong impression. But I went through the thing line by line, and I'm like, oh, first appearance of this person, first appearance of that person, first appearance, blah, 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 blah. And when I hit the cons, and especially those early Motor City cons back in the late 80s and early 90s, I was one of those guys on the floor in those quarter boxes, just looking, and, the first Gru, the first Usagi, keep going, the first whatever, Apocalypse, Lobo. I mean, and I just would buy them just to fill it up. So when you say like personal grails, it's like I picked up a lot of this when I was younger. But as I said, I know it sounds kind of pompous to say that. So maybe I guess my answer is trying to upgrade what I have already. Because some of those issues I have, let's say it is a grail and it's, the first Guy Gardner, let's say, my personal copy is a piece of crap. You know what I mean? It's all because I probably found it in a dollar box 25 years ago,
Yeah.
So stuff like that I'd like to upgrade, but I'm also not in a big hurry. If it's on the wall and I see it and the price looks good, I'll buy it, Just like the Moon Knight you mentioned, that was a collection I just chanced upon. I mean, I was set up at a show, somebody came through and just said, do you buy comic books? I'm like, sure, what do you got? And we talked about it, and she said, here's what I'm looking for. And it's funny, true story, because I was with Jason Moore. He yelled at me for this later. I told her what she wanted was too low, so I gave her more. And she's like, well, why? Why are you doing this? I go, well, because I want to sleep at night. Like I don't want to take this from you for nothing. So I gave her a pretty good price on that. I feel good about it. But what surprised me is, and maybe this is my lack of experience in grading, I really didn't think that thing would grade above a 9. I really didn't think so. I got it pressed and everything, which of course that helps, but I was guessing maybe an 8, 8.5 maybe. So it shows you how much I don't know about this. The 9.4, there were lots of issues with the spine. It's just, I guess there were no color cracks or anything like that. They all pressed out. So anyway, yeah, so it worked out well. It worked out well. But I did not get it for free. People think that too, when you buy a collection, like you must have paid nothing. No, you pay. I think it's rare that you kind of get stuff for very little, unless you're trying to take advantage. But anyway,
It always helps when you have your like table like right by the door too, where people come
yeah.
in, you're like the first person they see, and they're like,
Oh, it much.
"Yeah, you buy comics." But that's the advantage when you run your own
Right.
show. You can pick your own
Well,
spot. You know.
well, this one surprisingly that I bought this, I wasn't the front table. I don't know. I don't know why it worked out for me and not the other dealers
Oh,
in the room. I don't know. I mean, she actually came by the table first and asked me, and I had a nice little discussion with her. She walked away and came back later. So whatever I said, I don't know. I don't know. Just made her decide to do business with me. But I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. There's some really good things in that collection that I wasn't even aware of. She had a pickup truck out in the parking lot. It was kind of a creepy little deal. I'm like, sure, I'll come out and look at what's in the truck. She had 7 long boxes essentially, and I started looking through, and I kid you not, it was like 10 degrees outside. Like my fingers are freezing as I'm flipping through, and then I saw the issue that you mentioned earlier. I'm like, okay, there's some good stuff here, and that's where we started the negotiation. So I got the rest of it like sight unseen. I just figured that one alone is worth what I figure I would give her for
yeah.
it. Anyway, but it ended up being a good thing. Good thing. Yeah. But that's rare for me. I don't happen around those scenarios too often. So
Well, let's get back to your shows now. Now, for a lot of people who don't know, you do run like 3 other shows during the year,
mhm. Yep, yep.
and so tell us a little bit about those shows.
Well,
And
those are they're comic book and toy shows. We don't bring in guests. We don't have celebrities. And we don't even do like the cosplay, the gaming, etc. Even though I tell people if you want to come in costume, go for it. I mean, we're not going to turn you away. But February is the big one that we call the Comic Con. So Great Lakes Comic Con. The other ones we call expos just to kind of separate it. So it's a Great Lakes Comic Expo, and those are July, October, and December. And yeah, they're smaller shows. We have maybe 50 tables in the room, and it's all. I mean, we have artists there as well who come and set up, but it's mostly just comic books and toys. And the other thing too, which we haven't mentioned yet, I mean, something I really pride myself on in the show is we give away a lot of good prizes. It's not filler for a collection. I mean, we give away raffle prizes. We do that at the small shows. So if you come to one of our small shows, we do early bird raffles in the morning, and we have one towards the end of the show to kind of encourage people to stay until the end of the show, which is also what we do in February. And even adding that Sunday on there, we actually put a whole nother set of prizes on Sunday. So even for the ones coming up in a couple weeks, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we've got some really good prizes there. So you just got to be
are
there
you
when we
able to
raffle them off.
are
What's
you able
that?
to discuss what you're going to be raffling off this year?
Sure. They're actually up there on the shelf. So what I always try to do is make it mimic, Captain America's coming out, right? And actually the week before my move, before our show. But Daredevil Born Again. I mean, I try to make it so it's something that fits what's coming out. So we've got the first Elektra. To be honest with you, I don't remember which day. I think that's a Sunday prize. I'm actually navigating to it on my computer right now. I might as well so I can, go through this here. But Friday, and we have a lot of Turtles prizes too. And so since we have Kevin Eastman coming, but he's there Saturday and Sunday. So Friday, we've got Captain America 100, which is actually seen as Captain America #1. It's not his first appearance, but it's Cap 100. We also have Venom Lethal Protector, and that's a CGC 9.8. So we've got prizes that are worth, 1, 2, $300. We got some Flash Gordon toys on Friday as well.
What's the
Again,
condition
just
of Captain America 100?
say that again. I'm sorry.
What's the condition of number 100, Captain America?
Let's see. You're going to get a Friday admission to try and get a chance to get that right. It's a mid grade. I mean, what I try to do is I try to put a value on here of like and like a fair market value. So it's kind of like
Yeah,
if I were selling this at my booth, what's the price tag I would put on it?
exactly.
And for that one, I'd value about $150. So it's not super high grade, but it's still a Captain America 100. And I feel like, especially for a $20 admission, and you've got your odds are pretty good at winning these things. Because not only is it the number of people through the door, because we get, whatever comes in, through this show on a Friday night, but you have to figure how many of those are putting their name in the prize pool, and then how many of that number are actually sticking around until the door prize. So like I said, when you kind of calculate it that way, the odds are actually pretty good on winning some of these prizes. On Saturday, we've got Raphael #1, which is a Turtles comic from the 80s. That one's worth a little over $100. We've got Turtles #3. My goal was actually to get a Turtles #1. Now, not a first print, because I'm not crazy. I can't give that away. I'm sorry. But at least a third print, which is about a $500 book. But I couldn't find one. I was trying to find something on eBay or somewhere else to give away as a prize. So we have Turtles #3 on Saturday. Sunday, we have Turtles #4. I mean, like I said, just trying to, and the Daredevil one's on Sunday. So you've got chances to win prizes every single day. Just got to put your name into the mix and stick around. You have a variant cover that has been done by Kevin Eastman, inked by Jason Moore, and it's got that on it because they're trying to protect it. But just want to make you aware, I am so psyched about this. It is an homage to Giant Size X-Men #1. So it's the first time something like this has ever been done with the Turtles. So that's all. Just wanted to make sure I added that in there. But this is available at the show. It is not a door prize. It is for purchase. And it's $15 for that variant cover.
Pleasure speaking with you, Mike. We don't want to take up too much of your time. Again, okay, folks, go out on February 21st through the 23rd in Warren and check out the Great Lakes Comic-Con. You won't be disappointed. It's a great show for all kinds of collectors and fans of the medium. And this is Mark with Comic Experience Sci-Fi.
That's it for this episode of the Comic Experience Sci-Fi podcast. Thank you for listening, and we hope you'll join us next time.